She left the first child on a rainy night, promised she would be back tomorrow, and vanished for 3 years. I raised him. Then came the second, and the third. This morning, the phone rang. It was her, but this time, I did not answer. What she does not know is that I, a 62-year-old widow, have prepared a legal trap. She will never use these children as a paycheck again. My name is Eleanor Hart. I am 62 years old, and my life is measured by the steady, predictable rhythm of the Portland rain and the smell of coffee grounds in the morning. I live alone, technically, though my house is rarely quiet. I work part-time at the Copper Sparrow, a local craft guild downtown, managing their inventory and breathing in the scent of kiln dust and beeswax. It is calm work. It keeps my hands busy. My life is orderly, structured, and safe. I built it this way, brick by careful brick, because I know how easily things can shatter. This morning, at 7:12, the shatter tried to find its way back in. I was in the kitchen, poised over the counter, my hand clutching the ceramic mug I have used every day for a decade. The coffee was brewing, filling the air with that familiar, dark roast comfort. Then my phone, resting on the granite, began to vibrate. It was a harsh, rattling sound against the stone, an intrusion. I looked down. The screen was bright in the grey morning light. Kayla Rowan. My breath caught. My hand stopped moving. The coffee pot continued to drip, the only sound in the room, but I did not hear it. Kayla. The name felt like swallowing glass. My ex-daughter-in-law. The ghost who had not used that name in years. My eyes snapped to the refrigerator door, to the cluster of magnets holding school pictures and artwork. There they were. June, who is 11, with her father's serious eyes and a gap-toothed grin that is all her own. Theo, who is 8, clutching a complicated structure of building blocks, his hair a mess. And Iris, my little one, only 5, caught mid-laugh during her preschool graduation. These are the children Kayla left behind. It always started the same way. The first time, June was just a baby. Kayla had shown up on my porch, the rain soaking her thin jacket, the baby carrier clutched in her hand. She had an interview. She said, a big one. She just needed a few hours. I took my granddaughter. The hours bled into days, the days into weeks. Kayla did not return for 14 months. No call, no address, just a void. Then she came back for a week, pregnant with Theo, before vanishing again. Iris was the last. She was left on my doorstep in a cheap car seat with a handwritten note taped to the handle. Be back before Christmas. That was 3 years ago. My son, her husband, Daniel, died in a car accident 5 years ago. And with him, the last tether Kayla ever had to responsibility. The phone stopped vibrating. The screen went black. A moment later, it buzzed once. A voicemail notification. My heart was pounding. A dull, heavy beat against my ribs. I knew what she wanted. She never called unless she wanted something. I pressed the play button, lifting the phone to my ear, my other hand gripping the edge of the counter. Her voice filled the silence. It was thin, airy, with that manufactured helplessness I remembered so well. Eleanor. Hey, look, I know it's been a while. I am in a bit of a jam. Nothing serious, just a little mix-up. I need the kids, just for a few weeks. I promise. I will bring them right back. And, I am a little short on cash. If you could just send a little money to get me by, call me back. I need the kids, and I need money. She did not ask about them. She did not ask if June made the basketball team, or if Theo's asthma had settled. They were not people to her. They were assets. Leverage. I did not call back. I tapped the screen, saving the message. I forwarded the audio file to a secure email address. My hands were shaking, but it was not fear anymore. It was cold. Sharp adrenaline. I walked to the front door and checked the deadbolt. It was solid. I went to the dining room and slid the heavy wooden bar into place at the base of the sliding glass door. I pulled out my phone again, ignoring the missed call notification, and opened the security app. The video feed from the doorbell camera showed the empty, wet porch. The camera covering the driveway showed only my car. She was not here. Not yet. For years. I dreaded this call. I dreaded the disruption. I dreaded the fight. I knew I was not strong enough to win. But the woman who checked those locks today was not the same woman who took in a baby 9 years ago. I have learned things. I have prepared. I went back to the kitchen, poured my coffee, and listened to the sounds of the children beginning to stir upstairs. This time, the law is on my side. It is a pattern, you see, a cycle of chaos she brings, and I contain. I have journals documenting it all, thin spiral notebooks I bought at the drugstore, filled with dates and times. They are my proof. The first entry is from 9 years ago. Kayla, barely 23, stood on my porch. She said 72 hours. He has an interview in Seattle, she whispered, shifting June in the carrier. I cannot take her in. Just 72 hours. Eleanor. June was not even 2. After a week of silence, I drove to the county courthouse and filed for temporary kinship care. The social worker had tired eyes. She told me to keep receipts. Kayla reappeared 14 months later, looking thin, annoyed, and pregnant. The second time, it was Theo. She arrived with a new man, someone with hard eyes and a truck that idled in my driveway. She had a new last name, too. She had gotten married again. She said, this new job was in Utah, and they did not allow children in the temporary housing. It is just for the summer, she lied. Theo was 6 months old. She handed him to me, along with a half-empty box of diapers, and drove away. Iris was the last. Iris was not an exchange. She was a delivery. I found her on the porch one November morning, zipped into a snowsuit in a flimsy carrier. The note, scrawled on a torn piece of notebook paper, just said, "Be back before Christmas." She never came. My son, Daniel, their father, has been gone for 5 years. He died on a slick road on I-5, his sedan crushed by a semi. After the funeral, after the small insurance policy was settled, Kayla stopped calling. She had been his wife, but she was never his partner. His death just severed the last frayed thread of obligation she felt. In the silence that followed, I had to learn to be more than a grandmother. I was their harbor. The first year, I was terrified. My savings, meant for a quiet retirement, were bleeding out. I found myself at the public library, sitting in the back of a free seminar on personal finance. I learned about budgeting, about trusts, about locking down my credit. I found a support group for kinship caregivers, mostly women like me, grandmothers and aunts raising children we never expected. We traded advice on navigating the school system, on applying for benefits we were entitled to, on how to answer the question, "Where is my mommy?" I built a fortress of routine. We have dinner at 6 every night. June joined the middle school basketball team. She is tall, like Daniel. Theo builds entire cities with Lego, his focus absolute, his mind a quiet, intricate place. And Iris, who still flinches at the sound of thunder, knows to come find me. She knows I will hold her, that I will count the seconds between the flash and the sound, and that I will not let the storm in. My neighbour, Gloria Pike, a retired accountant, became my general. She went through my finances with a red pen, helped me set up college funds, and showed me how to protect what was left. "You are running a household, Eleanor," she told me, tapping her pen on my bank statement. "Not a charity. Because of her, my accounts are secure. No one can drain them again. We were stable. We were safe." Then, 3 weeks ago, the first crack appeared. I was sorting the mail, the usual pile of catalogues and utility bills, and there it was, a white, windowed envelope, stamped with an aggressive red "past due." It was not for me. It was addressed to June Hart, my 11-year-old daughter. I tore it open. It was a collection notice from a department store I had never heard of, for a store credit card. The outstanding balance was $849. The shipping address for the merchandise was listed as Boise, Idaho. I stood in my kitchen, the letter trembling in my hand. It was not just abandonment anymore. This was something else. This was theft. She was using my granddaughter, her own child, as a shield, as a ghost to borrow against. The phone call this morning was not the beginning. It was the escalation. I sat with Gloria at her dining table that same afternoon, the collection notice flat on the polished wood between us. My hands were shaking. Gloria put on her half-moon reading glasses and peered at the document. Her lips pursed. "Boise, Idaho," she said, her voice clipped. "That is where they shipped the merchandise." She looked at me over the rims of her glasses. "Do you know anyone in Boise?" I shook my head. Mute. She turned to her laptop, and her fingers began a rapid, steady tapping. She was quiet for nearly an hour, navigating screens I did not understand, cross-referencing public databases. Finally, she let out a sharp sigh. "It is exactly what you thought. Eleanor," she said, her voice heavy with anger. "The store card was opened 6 months ago. She used June's social security number." The air left my lungs. It was one thing to abandon a child. It was another to steal her future, to poison her name before she even had a chance to build it. My shock quickly hardened into a cold resolve. This was not a family dispute anymore. This was a crime. My first call was not to the police, but to Northwest Family Services, an advocacy group I had heard about at the library. They listened, they understood, and they connected me with Tessa Bloom. Tessa was a case manager, sharp and efficient, her voice devoid of pity. I preferred it that way. "Eleanor, you are describing child identity theft," Tessa said over the phone. "It is, unfortunately, very common. You need to act immediately." She gave me a precise list of instructions. First, file a report with the Federal Trade Commission. Second, take that FTC report to the Portland Police and file an identity theft report. I needed that police report number. It was the key. Third, contact all 3 credit bureaus and freeze the credit of all 3 children. "Not just June," Tessa insisted. "All of them. Assume she has all their information. People like Kayla use their children's clean social security numbers to get apartments, phones, utilities, and credit. You need to build a chain of evidence. We need to prove a pattern. This is how you show the court she is not just an absent mother. but an active danger. A chain of evidence. That night, after June and Theo were asleep and Iris was tucked in beside me, Gloria came back. We sat at my kitchen table, which had become my war room. We brewed coffee at 10 at night and began to dig. We scoured years of my saved emails, pulled up old text messages, and sorted through the sparse paperwork Kayla had left behind. We traced her digital footprint. It was a map of chaos. There was Kayla Rowan, then Kayla Mystery, the name from a short-lived marriage in Utah. Then a Kayla Thorne, tied to a post office box in Arizona. She moves around, changes her name, and covers her tracks, Gloria murmured, highlighting an email address on a printout. That email address was the link. It led us to her new identity. She was not using any of those names now. Online. She was Kaya Zen, a beatific, smiling woman living in a refurbished van. She had a whole social media presence, a blog, and pictures of herself parked against stunning desert landscapes. She was selling a $29 online course titled Minimalist Motherhood: How to Live Free and Raise Your Spirit. I felt sick. She was funding this free spirit lifestyle by destroying her daughter's credit. Tessa Bloom gave me a list of lawyers who worked with families like mine. You need someone who understands both family law and fraud, she advised. That is how I found Marisol Vega. Her firm, Harbour and Vega, was in a glass building downtown. I walked in with my kinship care documents, Daniel's death certificate, the collection notice, and the printouts of Kaya Zen. Marisol was intense, her dark hair pulled back severely. She listened to my entire story for 30 minutes without a single interruption. She reviewed every document. This is identity theft and fraud, Marisol said finally, her voice clear and hard. That is our leverage. Abandonment is difficult to prove. This, she tapped the collection notice, is concrete. She told me she would take the case. She would handle the pro bono aspects regarding the children's immediate safety. We have 2 goals. Eleanor, she said, leaning forward. First, we stop the financial bleeding. We send cease and desist letters. We file the police reports with the credit agencies. And we get this debt erased from June's name. We lock Kayla out. She paused, her eyes meeting mine. Second, we begin the process of terminating her parental rights. The state does not like to do it, but she just gave us the reason. She is not just neglectful. She is actively harming them. We are going to build a case so strong that the court has no other choice. My first move was to build a firewall. Marisol advised me to make the children's futures legally untouchable. I went to the bank and opened 3 separate educational trust accounts. One for June, one for Theo, and one for Iris. These were not simple savings accounts. They were ironclad, structured, so the money could only be used for tuition, housing, and books. And I made Marisol Vega the co-signatory on every single one. Kayla would never touch a cent of it. But a firewall needs funding. I was already stretched thin. My part-time work at the Copper Sparrow covered our daily life. But I needed a reserve. I could not, however, put my grandchildren's faces on a website and ask for money. I would not become her. So I created a shield. With my boss's blessing, I established the Sparrow's Nest Workshop Fund. I put up flyers at the guild, at the library, and at my church. The flyers advertised free craft classes for at-risk youth and kinship care families. It was a genuine program. I taught knitting and basic pottery twice a month. But the fine print on the donation forms, vetted by Marisol, made it clear that funds would be managed by a trust dedicated to the children's long-term welfare. My community donated generously. They thought they were funding art supplies. They were. But they were also funding my legal war chest, routing every dollar directly into the educational trusts. It was just in time. The Kaya Zen persona, having failed to get a response from me, went on the offensive. A video appeared on her minimalist motherhood blog. It was Kayla, sitting in her van, the setting sun catching the manufactured tears in her eyes. She did not use my name, but she did not have to. "I am a mother who is healing," she said, her voice trembling. "I was in a dark place, and I trusted a family member to care for my babies." She paused, wiping a tear. Now she will not let me see them. She has cut me off. I just want to hold my children. The comments section exploded. It was a war of strangers. Half of them called her a deadbeat. The other half called me a monster. They tagged organizations, demanding investigations, accusing me of custodial interference. I sat at my kitchen table, my phone hot in my hand, my stomach churning. I wanted to type. I wanted to tell them about the collection notice in June's name, about the diapers I had paid for, about the night terrors Iris had. "Do not." Marisol's voice was firm over the phone. "Do not engage. Archive everything. Take screenshots of the video, the comments, the platform. She is violating their terms of service regarding harassment and misinformation. Let her talk. We are collecting." While I archived, Gloria dug. She took the phone number from Kayla's voicemail and ran it through a series of public-facing payment apps. "Got her," Gloria said, turning her laptop toward me. She had found a digital wallet registered to that number. The transaction history was public. It was a stream of small donations coming in and large payments going out. Not for gas, not for food. The money was flowing to a wellness and meditation retreat in Arizona. But that was not the worst of it. Gloria clicked another link. Kaya Zen was busy. She had established a separate, illicit fundraiser. The title was "Help My Children Come Home." And there, on the screen, were my grandchildren. She was using old photos, pictures from when Daniel was still alive, June as a toddler, Theo in a pumpkin costume, Iris as a newborn. She had written a heartbreaking story about needing funds for a custody lawyer and safe housing to get them back. She was selling them. She was using their faces, their past, to fund her wellness retreat. I called Marisol. This time, my voice was not shaking. It was ice. "That is it," Marisol said. "That is the nail." She did not wait. She filed for an immediate emergency order to protect the identities of the minor children. She sent cease and desist letters to the fundraising platform and the social media host, citing the active fraud investigation and the children's right to privacy. The response was immediate. The platforms did not want the liability. Within 24 hours, the fundraiser was gone. The video of her crying in the van was flagged and removed for violating community standards. We had cut off her supply. The chessboard was set. We knew she was low on money, and her new scam had just been shut down. She was cornered, and now she was desperate. We were just waiting for her next predictable move. The phone rang again 2 days after her fake fundraiser vanished. This time, I was ready. I sat at the kitchen table, the house quiet before the kids woke up. I let it ring twice, took a breath, and tapped the speaker icon. Then I tapped the record button. Eleanor, you are making this very difficult. Kayla's voice was sharp. The manufactured helplessness was gone. She was annoyed. What do you want, Kayla? I have an opportunity, a real one, this time. A brand wants to sponsor my minimalist motherhood blog. They love my story. They want to do a whole campaign. About me. About struggling single mums. My blood ran cold. What does that have to do with me? They want to feature June, she said, as if it were obvious. They want to fly us out. They just need her for the photo shoot. As my model. They are paying. Eleanor. Good money. A big paycheck. I just need to borrow June. A paycheck. I kept my voice absolutely level, just as Marisol had instructed. A paycheck. What kind of contract are we talking about? How much is good money? $5,000, she said, and I could hear the triumphant smile in her voice. 5,000. Just for a 2-week shoot. We can split it. They said if June works out, they might want Theo and Iris too. I would need to see a legal contract. Kayla, I am not sending June anywhere without seeing who the brand is and what the terms are. It is all digital. Eleanor, it is not complicated. She snapped. I will send you the paperwork. Just sign the temporary authorization so I can get the advance. A week later, a package arrived. She did not send it to the house. She sent a key to a post office box at a shipping center downtown. I went alone, my stomach tight. Inside the small metal box was a thick priority mail envelope. I opened it right there, standing under the flickering fluorescent lights. There was no contract. There were no authorization forms. There was no brand name. It was a single sheet of paper, a printout. It was a set of complicated instructions for accessing a new, anonymous digital wallet with a blank space for me to write in my bank routing number to receive the funds. She was not just trying to use June. She was trying to implicate me in wire fraud. I photographed the document, sealed the envelope, and drove straight to Marisol's office. Marisol called Tessa Bloom while I was still sitting there. She is escalating, Marisol said into the phone, her voice grim. She is attempting to monetize the children, and she just tried to pull Eleanor into a fraud scheme. Tessa was the one who brought in the police. This is no longer a simple custody dispute. Eleanor, Tessa told me an hour later, meeting me at a coffee shop. This is financial crimes. This is active enticement. She introduced me to Detective Noah Bram, a quiet man from the Portland Police Department whose face looked permanently tired. He listened. He looked at the phone recording logs. He took the envelope with the e-wallet instructions, placing it carefully into an evidence bag. We have her on the phone recording, attempting to use the minor as a financial asset, Noah said, his voice a low monotone. This, he tapped the bag, is the mechanism of the fraud. This is good. We can work with this. But children are observant. They feel the tension. They heard the hushed calls, noticed I was locking the deadbolt even during the day. June found me in the kitchen that night. She called again. Did not she? She asked. Her voice was flat. She stopped calling Kayla Mom 2 years ago. I stopped wiping the counter and met her gaze. Yes, she did. What did she want this time? She wanted money, I said. And she wanted to borrow you, to be in some pictures for her blog. June's face, so much like Daniel's, hardened. She wants to show me off, like a toy. I said no. I said firmly. I will always say no. My only job is to keep you safe. Marisol and I are handling it. You do not have to worry." She was quiet. Later that evening, she came into the living room with a piece of lined school paper. "For your lawyer," she said, handing it to me. I read it. It was a list, in her clear, 11-year-old handwriting. 1. She left me at Grandma's. 2. She came back and left Theo. 3. She left Iris. 4. She never calls on my birthday. 5. I do not want to go with her. I want to stay here. I folded the paper. It was the sharpest weapon we had. I tightened the circle. I met with the principal at the school and gave her a copy of the temporary restraining order Marisol had filed. I spoke to Gloria, who organized the neighborhood parents into an impromptu walking bus to bring the kids home from school. My community closed ranks. Kayla must have sensed the doors closing. She called again, this time from a blocked number. It went straight to the voicemail Detective Bram had helped me set up to record all incoming calls. Her voice was a scream. "Fine. Eleanor. Be like that. I do not need June. I will just come and get all 3 of them. We are going on a van tour. They deserve to see the country with their real mother. I will be there this week." I played the message for Noah Bram. His tired expression tightened. "She is threatening interstate transport of minors against a temporary custody order," he said. "She just crossed a federal line." He picked up his phone. He was requesting an immediate alert. The threat of the van tour hung in the air for 48 hours. Then, the text message came. It was short, arrogant. "I am at the Sun Mart on 82nd. I am leaving tonight. If you want to talk, you have 5 minutes. Come alone." I read it to Detective Bram over the phone. "She is making her move," he said. "We are ready. Tessa Bloom will meet you there. We will be in an unmarked car 2 rows over. She cannot see us, but we will see and hear everything." My hand was shaking as I hung up. Tessa arrived 10 minutes later. She looked calm, but her eyes were alert. She helped me fasten a small, cold microphone to the inside of my collar. "You have to go to the car," Tessa said, her voice firm. "The kids." "I cannot take them," I whispered, horrified. "Eleanor, listen to me. She is threatening to take them. If she attempts to, with us as witnesses, that is the charge. Custodial interference. Right now, it is just threats on a voicemail. We need the overt act. They will be safer in your locked car, with us 10 feet away, than they will be if she finds them at school tomorrow. You stay between her and the car. I will be right next to you." My stomach turned to acid. I buckled Iris into her car seat. June and Theo sat in the back, their faces pale. "You do not unlock the doors for anyone but me or Tessa. Do you understand?" June just nodded, her eyes fixed on my face. "We understand. Grandma." The Sun Mart parking lot was glaring under the afternoon sun. I parked in the designated row, my old sedan facing the entrance, 2 rows down. I saw a dark blue sedan I did not recognize. Bram. A few minutes later, a large, battered white van pulled in. It parked directly facing me, blocking me in. Kaya Zen was painted on the side in flowing, peeling letters. It had a temporary Idaho plate. Kayla got out. She looked different from her online photos. Her hair was matted, and she wore a stained sweatshirt. She stalked toward my car. Her eyes narrowed. I got out. Tessa stepping out just behind me. "Who the hell is this?" Kayla spat, glaring at Tessa. I said, "Come alone." "This is my friend," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. The wire under my shirt felt heavy. Whatever. Kayla jerked her head toward my car. Are they in there? They are. Good. It saves me a trip. She crossed her arms. Look, I am tired of this. You had your fun playing house. I need them. Just give them to me for a few weeks. I make my money. I get the brand sponsorship. And then I will bring them back. It is that simple. My voice was cold. You want to use them to make money? She let out a short, barking laugh. Of course. What else are they for? They are my kids. They are my assets. Now, get them out of the car. We are leaving. She took a step toward my driver's side door. Kayla Rowan, Tessa said, stepping forward. Her voice was loud and clear, cutting through the parking lot noise. My name is Tessa Bloom. I am a case manager with Northwest Family Services. You are not taking these children anywhere. Kayla's face contorted with rage. You cannot stop me, she screamed. They are mine. She lunged. She did not go for me. She went for the back door of my car, right where Iris was strapped in. She yanked the handle. It was locked. She banged her fist on the window, and I heard Iris let out a terrified wail. Get out of the car. Iris. Kayla shrieked before she could strike the glass again. Two things happened. The dark blue sedan's doors flew open, and Detective Bram was there, his hand on his sidearm. Police, step away from the vehicle. Now. Kayla froze. She looked from Bram, to me, to Tessa. Her eyes were wide, the realization hitting her. She had been trapped. As Bram secured her against the side of her van, his partner began to search it. Bram, the other officer called out, opening the van's side door. The van was not full of camping gear. It was full of boxes of merchandise, stamped with the logo of the store that had sent June the collection notice. On the passenger seat was a stack of glossy posters, printed with the same stolen photos of my grandchildren. Help the Kaya Zen kids. The posters read. Tucked into the console was a spiral notebook. I saw Bram flip it open. It was a sob story script, full of notes on which emotional beats to hit when asking for money. Kayla Rowan, Bram said, his voice flat as he cuffed her hands behind her back. You are under arrest for suspicion of fraud, identity theft, and attempted custodial interference. I fumbled with my keys, unlocking my car. I pulled Iris from her seat, her small body trembling as she buried her face in my neck. I looked at the back seat. Theo was just watching, his eyes wide. June was looking straight ahead, at Kayla being put into the police car. She was not crying. She was just watching, her expression a quiet, terrible echo of adulthood. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out. It was a text message from Marisol, who had been monitoring the operation from her office. They have her. It is done. We are filing. We will see them in court. It was exactly what I wanted. The criminal charges for fraud and identity theft moved sluggishly through the county system. But Marisol Vega aimed our primary weapon at the family court. This was not about punishment. It was about liberation. I sat on a hard wooden bench in a courtroom that smelled of old carpet and weak coffee. Marisol had filed the petition. The words felt heavy and final in my mouth. Termination of parental rights. She did not argue emotion. She built a case of cold, hard facts, statutory abandonment, exceeding the state's time limit by several years, active endangerment, proven by the police report from the Sunmart parking lot, and financial fraud, evidenced by the collection notice in June's name. Kayla was not physically present. She appeared on a large video monitor, dialed in from the county jail, wearing a faded orange jumpsuit. Her face was pale and stripped of its Kaya-zen glow. A public defender, a young man who looked overworked, sat at the table opposite Marisol. He made the argument we expected. "Your Honor," the defender said, "Ms. Rowan has been the victim of severe economic hardship. She has battled untreated postpartum depression since the birth of her first child. She did not abandon these children. She sought temporary, familial care from the only person she trusted while she attempted to achieve financial stability." The judge, a sharp-eyed woman who looked like she had heard every excuse, peered at the public defender. "Seeking temporary care is one thing, counselor. Using your 11-year-old daughter's social security number to open a store card with a shipping address in Idaho is quite another." She ordered a full psychological evaluation for Kayla. She also ordered a complete review of the custodial history, demanding documentation. This was Marisol's opening. "We welcome that review, Your Honor," Marisol said, rising. She was crisp, organized, and clear. "We have provided the court with Ms. Hart's contemporaneous journals, documenting every date of abandonment and every broken promise over the last 9 years. We have the original temporary kinship care filing. We have the police reports. And we have the audio recordings of Ms. Rowan attempting to, in her words, borrow her daughter for a $5,000 paycheck." The public defender stood again. "Your Honor, Ms. Hart is the paternal grandmother. Ms. Rowan is the biological mother. A mother's rights, however flawed, remain primary." "About that," Marisol said. She reached into her briefcase. This was the twist. 2 nights before, Gloria had been at my house, helping me scan the children's immunization records. We were digging through an old external hard drive, a backup of Daniel's entire college laptop. In a folder mislabeled Auto Insurance, Gloria had found a single, scanned PDF. "Eleanor," she had whispered, her hand flying to her mouth. "It is Daniel's will." It was simple, drafted by a cheap online service in Bend, Oregon, right after June was born. My son was only 25. But the language was unequivocal. Now. Marisol placed the certified copy before the judge. "Your Honor, we have located the last will and testament of the children's deceased father, Daniel Hart." "Objection," the public defender said weakly. "Relevance. The mother is still alive." "It is profoundly relevant, Your Honor," Marisol countered, her voice ringing in the quiet room. "It speaks directly to the father's intent. Should he pass, and the mother be deemed unable to care for the children." She read the specific clause aloud. "If I, Daniel Hart, should die, and my wife, Kayla Rowan, is unwilling or unable to provide adequate care, I designate my mother, Eleanor Hart, to have full rights of guardianship and custody for my children." Marisol did not stop. "To verify this document, we have flown in the notary public from Bend, who witnessed and stamped this signature 10 years ago. He is in the hallway right now, prepared to testify that this is a true and accurate copy of the will he finalized for Mr. Hart." The courtroom was silent. This was not just me versus Kayla anymore. This was my son, reaching across 5 years, protecting his children. The judge looked at the document for a long time. When she looked up, her decision was swift. Given the severity of the pending criminal charges, the overwhelming evidence of fraud, and the clear intent of the deceased father, this court is granting Eleanor Hart extended temporary guardianship of all 3 minors, effective immediately. A full no-contact order is now in effect. Ms. Rowan is to have 0 contact, no calls, no letters, no third-party messages with June, Theo, or Iris Hart. We will reconvene pending the psychological evaluation. On the monitor, Kayla's face contorted. She lunged at the camera, screaming, just before the video feed cut to black. She tried to fight back online. Of course. A Free Kaya support group materialized, accusing the courts of kidnapping, but the judge's order was ironclad. Marisol served the platform administrators, and the pages were removed within hours for violating a legal no-contact order. We were not the only ones who submitted testimony. Tessa had arranged for a child advocate to speak with June and Theo. Iris, too young for an interview, had submitted her own evidence. It was a drawing of our house with me in the garden, and 3 smiling children under a bright yellow sun. June's letter, the one she had written on lined school paper, was entered into the record. The advocate read it aloud. She left us. She never calls on my birthday. I do not want to go with her. I want to stay here. Home is with Grandma. They were the words of a refugee who had finally found a safe harbour. The victory in family court gave us a legal shield, but it did not give us peace. The no-contact order meant Kayla was silenced, but it did not mean she was alone. The threat just changed shape. It became quieter, more insidious, and it came from a direction I never anticipated. It started 3 days after the hearing. I was checking the doorbell camera archive, a nervous, compulsive habit I had developed. I froze. There. At 2:17 in the morning, when the street was dark and the world was asleep. A man I did not recognize was standing on the sidewalk. He was just outside the faint halo of the porch light, looking directly at my house. He was not moving. He was not passing by. He stood there for 4 full minutes, then turned slowly and walked away. My heart was a cold drum against my ribs. This was surveillance. I saved the clip and sent it immediately to Detective Bram. I did not expect a fast reply, but my phone rang within the hour. Eleanor. Noah's voice was grim. Stay inside. Keep the doors locked. We know that man. He is a low-level associate of a fraud ring we've been monitoring, likely connected to Kayla's criminal case. We are sending a patrol car to swing by your area. They found him 6 blocks away, sitting in a car with no headlights on. Bram called me back later that day, after they had brought him in. We picked him up, he said, his voice tired. He was just a scout. He is not talking. The worrying part is how he got his information. He paused, and I heard him sigh. He had text messages on his phone. Eleanor. They were coordinating. He had a screenshot of your grandchildren's school schedule. Bell times, dismissal doors, even their lunch periods. I sank onto the kitchen stool, the blood draining from my face. Where? How did he get that? The messages were from a number registered to your cousin, Bram said. Avery Hart. The phone felt slick in my hand. Avery, my father's brother's daughter. We were never close, but we were blood. I remembered her call last Christmas, her voice sharp and needy, complaining about her car payments, asking for $5,000. I had told her I could not, that my finances were tied up with the children, that I was barely making it myself. She had been cold, cutting. Must be nice, playing the martyr with your son's kids. She had snapped before hanging up. Now I saw. It was not just a grudge. It was a transaction. Kayla, or her associates, must have reached out, found the weak link in the family fence. Avery had sold my children's safety for what I imagined was a disclosure fee. She had leaked the court records. She had handed them the schedule. The old Eleanor would have wept. She would have called Avery, screaming, demanding to know how she could betray her own family, how she could put those children at risk. But I was not that woman anymore. I had learned from Marisol that rage was a waste of energy. Strategy was what mattered. I did not hang up and dial Avery. I hung up and dialed Marisol. She committed a crime, I said, my voice dangerously calm. She is aiding them. She is, Marisol agreed. But prosecuting her will be a messy, public family fight, and it might not stick. A disclosure is hard to prove in criminal court. We need to neutralize her. We need to cut her off, legally and permanently. I did not yell. I did not confront Avery at a family dinner. Instead, Marisol drafted a 2-page legal notice. It was delivered to Avery's apartment by a court processor the next morning. It was not a lawsuit. Not yet. It was a formal cease and desist, combined with a binding confidentiality agreement. It detailed her actions, citing the evidence from the scout's phone. It stated that if she ever contacted Kayla or any known associates, or if one more piece of private information about me or the children was leaked, we would pursue a civil suit against her for the full extent of damages, including intentional infliction of emotional distress and conspiracy to interfere with custody. Avery did not call me, but she signed it and sent it back to Marisol's office within 24 hours. She was silenced, but the immediate danger remained. They knew the schedule. So, I changed the schedule. I changed everything. I called the parents of June's closest friends, the ones from the basketball team. I called the mothers from Theo's Lego club. I organized. The next Monday, I did not drive them to school. Instead, I met 4 other parents at the corner. We formed what one of them called a walking bus, a pack of adults, chaperoning a dozen children, walking the 8 blocks to the school. We did the same at pickup. We were a community, visible, strong, and impenetrable. I changed my route to the Copper Sparrow. I changed my grocery store. This was the shift. I was no longer the woman who hid behind her deadbolt, waiting for the next attack. I was the woman organizing the neighborhood watch. I was no longer just enduring. I was leading. The weeks between the restraining order and the final TPR hearing were heavy with a pressurized silence. The threat from Avery had been neutralized, but the air in Portland felt contaminated. Every car that slowed on our street made my pulse jump. The walking bus was our shield, but I could feel the children's tension, the way Theo jumped at loud noises, the way June had stopped talking about basketball. We needed air. Marisol had submitted all our evidence, the psych evaluation of Kayla, which painted a picture of severe narcissistic personality disorder, the police reports, Daniel's will. The court date was set. Take them away. Eleanor. Marisol advised me over the phone. Just for a week. The judge has the files. Go somewhere you can breathe before you have to stand in that room. I had a friend, Pastor Ruth Calder, who had retired to Santa Fe. She lived in a small, sturdy adobe house that always smelled of dry cedar and coffee. I packed one large bag for the 4 of us, and we flew from the damp grey of Oregon into the sharp, brilliant sunlight of New Mexico. The moment we stepped onto Ruth's dusty patio, the children seemed to unfurl. The oppressive, watchful quiet of Portland was replaced by the rustle of the dry wind and the vastness of the high desert sky. Ruth, bless her, did not ask a single question about the court case. She just hugged me, looked at the children, and said, "The clay is on the back porch. The lizards are friendly." For 10 days, we lived in a different world. It was a road movie, just as I had hoped. We were refugees finding sanctuary. Ruth took us to the local artisans' market, where Theo stood mesmerized for a full hour, watching a Navajo woman weave a complex rug, his mind captivated by the pattern. June, my quiet observer, joined a local youth class and learned to shape and fire small, earthy red pots. And Iris, my baby, simply ran. She chased the quick, turquoise-tailed lizards, her laughter bouncing off the adobe walls, her nightmares seemingly banished by the bright, relentless sun. I watched them, and for the first time in months, I felt my own shoulders unlock. I saw June and Theo whispering and laughing, their heads bent together. This, I thought, is what home is. It is not the house. It is the safety. While they healed, I worked. I sat at Ruth's heavy wooden table, the high-altitude sun pouring in, and I assembled my final file. This was not the evidence of Kayla's failure. This was the proof of our success. I had a notarized letter from Dr. Aris, their pediatrician, detailing 9 years of consistent well checks, vaccinations, and asthma management. I had a letter from June's basketball coach, praising her focus and her positive attitude. I had letters from their teachers and the school counselor, detailing their academic progress, their strong friendships, and their resilience. This was the testament to their stability. This was the life I had built from the wreckage. The outside world tried to intrude, as it always did. My phone, left on the counter, began to ring. It was a new number, this one with an Arizona area code. I let it go to voicemail. The message was not the panicked screaming of the van tour threat. This was a new, cold calculation. "Eleanor, I see you are hiding, smart, but the judge knows I am recovering. She knows I am the mother. If you do not answer this call, if you do not agree to supervised visits, I am selling my story. I have a true crime network ready to sign a contract. I will tell the whole world how you used your son's death to steal my children. I will be the victim. You will be the monster. Your choice." My hand was perfectly steady. I saved the audio file. I forwarded it to Marisol with the subject line, "Final Entry." Marisol's reply came an hour later. "She is bluffing, Eleanor, and she is stupid." I traced the producer she pitched. "They received our cease and desist letter 10 minutes ago. We informed them that the children are protected minors in an active endangerment case, and any broadcast using their likeness, names, or story would be met with immediate and severe litigation. The production company dropped her instantly. The risk is too high. She has nothing left to sell." That night, our last night in Santa Fe, I sat on the porch. The air was cool and sharp, the sky a spray of diamonds. I pulled out my phone and typed a new text message, not to Marisol, but to Kayla's number. "When you call again, I will not answer. Not today. Not ever. We are done." I stared at the words, the digital finality of them. Then I deleted the message, one letter at a time. It did not need to be sent. It just needed to be true. The screen door creaked. June stepped out, wrapping one of Ruth's woven blankets around her shoulders. She sat beside me. "Are you scared?" Grandma, she asked, her voice quiet. I looked at this child, who was forced to be old before her time. I would not lie. Yes, I said, my voice thick. I am terrified. My heart feels too big for my chest. I turned to meet her gaze. But I am choosing to stand firm. Scared is just a feeling. Standing firm is the choice. We are choosing to stand. She nodded, and for the first time, she looked like she believed it. She leaned her head against my shoulder. In the morning, the four of us boarded the plane back to Portland, back to the rain, and back to the courtroom. The courtroom was pressurized, silent, the air thick with antiseptic and old wood. Kayla was on the video screen again, this time looking coached, her expression carefully neutral. She was out on bail, pending her criminal trial, and sat in a sterile conference room next to her public defender. He argued first. Your Honor, Ms. Rowan has completed her court-ordered psychological evaluation. She acknowledges her past mistakes driven by severe economic hardship and untreated postpartum depression. She is in recovery. She is stable. She is asking for a second chance, for a path to reunification. A mother deserves that. The judge looked to the county prosecutor, who was working with Marisol. Ms. Rowan has had 3 second chances, the prosecutor said, his voice cold. They were named June, Theo, and Iris. He did not stop. He played the audio from the Sunmart parking lot. The thin, metallic sound of Kayla's voice filled the room. They are my assets. What else are they for? Just give them to me for a few weeks. I make my money. And then I will bring them back. The prosecutor then displayed the screenshots of the Help My Children Come Home fundraiser, the one using the stolen photos. She did not seek recovery, Your Honor. She sought monetization. While claiming poverty, she was funding a wellness retreat in Arizona. When that failed, she attempted to sell access to her 11-year-old daughter for $5,000. On the screen, Kayla surged forward, her face turning dark red. He is lying. That was taken out of context. They twisted my words. You cannot do this. Her defender put a hand on her arm, but the mask of Kaya Zen was gone. Marisol rose. Your Honor, the state has presented the pattern of endangerment. I wish to present the pattern of protection. She held up the certified copy of Daniel's will. We have the confirmed testimony of the notary. Daniel Hart knew who his wife was. His last act as a father was to create a safeguard, designating Eleanor Hart as guardian, should Kayla be unwilling or unable to provide care. We argue that 9 years of abandonment and active fraud prove both. I sat straight, my hands gripping the wooden bench in front of me. I felt the vibration before I heard it, a low, insistent buzz against my leg. I looked down into my open purse on the floor. My phone screen was lit. Kayla is calling. It was a new number, an unknown prefix. But my phone knew. How did it know it did not matter? She was calling. Right now. The judge looked up, her eyes sharp, annoyed by the interruption. Ms. Hart, is that your device? Yes, Your Honor. I apologize. Do you need to take that? She asked, her voice tight. The courtroom was silent. The old Eleanor would have panicked, fumbled, apologized again, and run out of the room. The new me simply reached down. I pressed the silence button on the side of the phone. Then I picked it up and placed it, screen down, on the bench beside me. No, Your Honor, I said, my voice clear. I do not. The judge looked at me for a long moment. "Ms. Hart," she said, "you have heard the arguments. Do you have anything you wish to say to this court before I make my determination?" I stood up. I looked past Kayla on the screen, directly at the judge. "I am 62 years old," I said. "For 9 years. I have been the default. I have been the caregiver, the nurse, the chef, the tutor, and the safe harbor. I have chosen to be the adult in the room when another adult failed. I have done that out of love for my son and for his children. But today, I am asking the court to make it permanent. I am choosing to be their legal roof, their firewall, and their home. They deserve a life that cannot be threatened by a phone call. They deserve a final answer." I sat down. The silence in the room stretched. The judge looked at her notes, then at the screen, then at me. "The primary duty of this court is not to the parents," she said. "It is to the children. Their safety and stability are paramount." She summarized the evidence: the 9 years of documented abandonment, the active fraud, the identity theft, the attempt to monetize the children at the Sun Mart. "Ms. Rowan," the judge said to the screen, "your actions have demonstrated a profound, consistent, and dangerous inability to parent. This court finds that you are a clear and present danger to the financial, emotional, and physical well-being of these children. Therefore, this court orders the termination of parental rights for Kayla Rowan, effective immediately. Full and permanent legal guardianship, with a path to adoption, is granted to the paternal grandmother, Eleanor Hart." The feed cut to black. The public defender slumped. Marisol put her hand on my arm and squeezed. Hard. I walked out of the courtroom, my legs shaking. Tessa and Gloria were in the hallway with them. June, Theo, and Iris. They were huddled together. They looked up as I walked out. June's eyes asked the question. I nodded. "It is over," I whispered. "It is finished?" June lunged first, her long, 11-year-old arms wrapping around my waist, burying her face in my coat. Theo and Iris piled in. We were just a knot of arms and coats and quiet, shaking sobs of relief. And then, I felt it again, the vibration in my pocket. I pulled the phone out. The hallway was dim, but the screen was bright. Kayla is calling. She was relentless. The ghost. The storm that always came back. I looked at the name. Then I looked at the 3 children clinging to me. I watched June raise her head, her face wet with relief, not fear. I pressed my thumb to the screen. I did not answer. I opened the contact. I hit edit. I scrolled down to the bottom. Delete contact. A pop-up asked me to confirm. I confirmed. The ringing stopped. I put the phone back in my pocket. I put my arms around my grandchildren. "Let's go home," I said. We pushed open the heavy doors of the courthouse. The Portland sun, rare and weak, had broken through the clouds, and the light hit my face. It was quiet. It was the silence of freedom. Thank you all so much for listening to my story today. I am really curious. Where in the world are you tuning in from? Let me know in the comments below so we can connect and share our thoughts. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to Grandma's Family Diary, give this video a like, and support us by hitting that hype button so more people can hear this story.